Hello, 8th grade algebra, 7th and 8th grade algebra. I think I have a couple 7th grade students as well. And we are back in 1.7 and we are working on example 2. We've been doing equations this almost the entire chapter, and we get to section 7 and we're working on absolute value equations. Now in example 1, we had absolute value equations that were set equal to a positive number. Example 2, I'm going to show you how to handle a situation when your absolute value equation ends up equaling 0 or a negative number. Okay? So hang with me and take notes, be diligent in note-taking, listen carefully, and of course if you have questions, write them down in the margin, come to class with them, ready to ask, and always have that option of going back and reviewing the video again if you need to. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started. Example 2, find that in your note packet and work with me. And remember, we have some steps that we need to follow. Okay? Step 1, we've got to get the absolute value alone. Okay? In this first one, it's not. See, the absolute value is right here, absolute value of x plus 3, and then outside of that, you have this plus 4, and we do need to get rid of the plus 4. So ask yourself, how do I undo addition? Hopefully your mind is screaming subtraction, so we're going to take away 4 from each side, okay? Now what that's going to do is we're going to bring down the absolute value of x plus 3, and we're going to find that it's going to equal 0. This is one of those examples where absolute value is equal to a number that's not a positive number. In the examples in example 1, they all were set equal to a positive number. Here, it's not. It's set equal to 0. We're still going to follow the same format. We're going to write our two equations if it's possible to write two equations. And in this case, it's not going to be possible because 0 is the one number that's neither positive nor negative. So you're going to write one equation. Anytime it's set equal to 0, we'll put a little smiley face. If it's set equal to 0, your only option is to write one equation, okay? And we did that right here. So let's put little eyeballs, maybe a little bit of hair here, okay? And so now what you want to do is you want to solve the equation, okay? And that's easy enough. It's a one-step equation. We're just going to take away 3 from each side, and we're going to have x equals negative 3. Now do not walk away from this thing unless you check it. If I don't impress upon you anything, and I hope that's one thing that sticks with you, check your answer. It doesn't take very long. So if you plug it back in, whoops, let me rewrite that. Let's do negative 3 plus 3. Put that in absolute value, plus 4 equals 4. Okay, start here inside the absolute value. Absolute value is considered to be a grouping symbol, and you should start there, simplify inside, and then take the absolute value. That's always where you start when you're following order of operations. So negative 3 plus 3, of course that's 0. And the absolute value of 0 is 0. And 0 plus 4 is 4. And it checks out. So I know for a fact that that is the answer. And I checked it. So I put a check mark when I know I checked it. So there you go. That's what you would present as your answer. So remember, in example 1, all those absolute values, when we finally got the absolute value alone, those absolute values were set equal to a positive number. You were then looking for one answer, or two answers, excuse me. But when the absolute value is set equal to 0, like we ended up here having that situation happen, there's no such thing as positive and negative 0. 0 is the one number that doesn't have two signs to it possibly. So you're only going to have one equation, not two, when your absolute value is set equal to 0. You're going to solve your equation and, of course, check your answer. If your answer doesn't work, you don't have an answer. It would be a no solution. Okay? So let's look at this next one to the right. Same format. We're going to follow the same rules, the same steps that I established in example 1. Get your absolute value alone. So that means to get this guy by itself, you're going to have to subtract 8 from each side. Okay, so let's take a look. 5 minus 8 is -3. Now we have an unusual situation. Our absolute value is not set equal to a positive number. It's not set equal to 0. Our absolute value is set equal to a negative number. Now here's the shortcut. The shortcut is you recognize that this is not possible. Recognize that an absolute value cannot ever equal a negative number. Okay, that's the shortcut. Now I have to admit there are a lot of my students who their brains are on autopilot and they don't stop and think and they just charge through and solve the equation. Now you can do that too. You will catch it in the end when you check. If you check, you will catch it. Let me put it that way. But you can catch it right now and go, Mrs. Thompson told me that for absolute value, if my absolute value is set equal to a positive number, now that's when the absolute value is alone, not up here, not here, where that absolute value plus 8 is equal to 5. You can't assess it there. You assess it when the absolute value is alone. If your absolute value is set equal to a positive number, you're going to have 2 answers. If your absolute value is set equal to 0, you're going to have exactly 1 answer. If your absolute value is set equal to a negative number, this is a situation that has no solution. This is a no solution. And there's 2 ways to write that answer. You can write it with a 0 with a slash through it, just like that, also known as null set, N-U-L-L set, or you can just say no solution. This is not possible. There is no number on this planet that I could ever plug in for X that will ever make this true. You can do that at this stage. If you recognize this situation, your shortcut is to go no solution. I don't need to go on anymore. Now, I have to say, most of you will not recognize this. You will forget, or you just don't understand why it's not a solution. You keep going on, okay? You're going to write 2 equations, okay? And this is for the rest of you that, you won't recognize it. So here are your 2 equations. You will go -3 is equal to x plus 2. So you write exactly what you see without the absolute value lines, and then do the opposite sign. +3 equals x plus 2. Okay, so there you've written them. All right, so now solve for each of them. So I'm going to take away 2, and I've got -5 equals x. Take away 2, and I've got 1 equals x. Okay, now just because you've got 2 answers for x doesn't mean that they actually are the answers. That's why, people, we need to check your answer. Once you check your answers, it will be abundantly clear whether you can use them or cannot use them. All right, so let's take the -5 and let's plug it in. I'm actually going to go right back up here to the top, and I'm going to talk you through it. Okay, I'm running out of room here. So you're going to plug in -5 right here. -5 plus 2. What's -5 plus 2? Correct. If you said -3, you are absolutely right. What's the absolute value of -3? +3. What's 3 plus 8? 11. Guys, the last time I checked, 5 does not equal 11. You cannot use that number as an answer because it doesn't check out. You have to mark it out. You can't use it. Okay? So let's do the same thing. We're going to come right back up here to the top, and we're going to plug in that positive 1 we solved. Okay? What's 1 plus 2? 3. What's the absolute value of 3? 3. What's 3 plus 8? 11. Again, I have 5 equals 11. That is not true. I cannot use that answer either. So if neither of your answers work, then you can write null set or no solution. And that's my shorthand for no solution. You will catch it either way. So you can either catch it on the early end with the shortcut. Oh yeah, Mrs. Thompson said, if I ever have an absolute value, when it's all alone, set equal to a negative number, it's automatically no solution. There's nothing I can plug in that will ever make that true. And, you know, to help explain a little further, absolute value of what number will give me negative 3? Can you ever have a distance of negative 3? And the answer is no. Distance is always positive or 0. Distance is never negative. That's why it doesn't work. Okay? So you can use a shortcut, recognize it on the early part, or continue and write your 2 equations, solve your 2 equations, check your 2 answers. If they work, then box them in. If they don't work, neither of them work, then you're going to write null set, the circle with a slash through it, or no solution. Now that was a little bit tricky. So let's flip to the next page. And let's see here. I'll leave one of them for you. I do want to demonstrate the left one. Just go through the motion one more time. Make sure you've got this. Notice this one here on the left says 2 minus the absolute value of 2x minus 5 equals 7. Now we want to get the absolute value alone. So that means I got to leave the absolute value of 2x minus 5. I've got to leave that right there on that side by itself. Okay? So I need to undo this 2 that's there. It says 2 minus. So 2 is positive. If I want to take 2 from the left side and move it to the right side, what operation is the best operation to do here? If you are saying to me, and I can't hear you, to take away 2 from each side, you are absolutely correct. Because 2 minus 2 is 0. 2 take away 2 is 0. So good job. So we're going to drop down everything else we see. Drop down the minus sign. Drop down the absolute value of 2x minus 5. And now 7 minus 2 is 5. So that looks great. Now we still have a number out in front of this absolute value. It may not be obvious because all you see is a sign here, this minus sign or negative sign. Remember what I told you. If you don't see a number right there between the negative sign and the absolute value line or parentheses, what should you put there? And if you're going, oh, put a 1 there, you're absolutely right. Remember, we cannot distribute. Do not ever distribute a number on the outside to numbers on the inside of an absolute value. The only time you can distribute is if you see bracket, braces, or parentheses. Not ever distribute using absolute value. Okay, so that means we're going to have to move it another way. We're going to have to undo that operation. Now the operation that's going on between -1 and the absolute value is multiplication. So to undo it, we are going to divide each side by -1. Okay, looking good. So now I've got the absolute value of 2x minus 5. It is now alone on one side, and it's set equal to -5. So my shortcut people, do you recognize this situation? Because I hope you do. You cannot have an absolute value set equal to a negative number. So if you recognize that situation, you can write null set or no solution right now. If you don't recognize that, then you're going to continue writing your 2 equations. 2x minus 5 equals -5, 2x minus 5 equals positive 5. And then you're going to solve for each one. So I'm going to add 5. Looks great. Divide by 2. And I've got x is 0 as one of my answers. Add 5 in the other one. And then divide by 2. And I'll get x equals 5. Now, just because I get 2 answers doesn't mean that those answers actually work. That's why you got to check, guys. You got to check. That's why I keep impressing that upon you. Please, 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 please check your answers. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to go back to the original problem, and we're going to plug in 0 for the x, and I shouldn't have written that, minus 5. Now write it, equals 7. Okay, so what's 2 times 0? Start here, 0. What's 0 minus 5? Negative 5. What's the absolute value of negative 5? Positive 5. What's 2 minus 5? That's negative 3. Does negative 3 equal 7? No. The last time I checked, it did not. So you can't use that as an answer. 0 does not check out. Okay? So do it again, except this time plug in positive 5. So you've got 2 minus the absolute value of 2 times 5 minus 5 is equal to 7. All right, start inside. 2 times 5, 10. 10 minus 5, 5. Absolute value 5, 5. 2 minus 5, negative 3. Negative 3 equals 7? Nope, can't use that one either. So your answer is no solution. You cannot solve that one. It's not solvable. So that's one of the tougher ones. And I want to, as you do your homework on this, I want you to practice this skill in particular. It's okay whether you remember the shortcut or you don't. If you check your answers, you will catch it. You will get to the right answer. But if you don't check your answer, you may present me with 2 answers that actually don't work, and it's actually a no solution. So I do want to encourage you, check your answers. All right, I'm going to leave this last one for you. This will be an extra credit opportunity for you. So do that on your paper. I will check that at some point in time. And do your best. Show all of your work. I want to see the steps in motion. I want to see that you know what to do. And then show me the final answer after you've checked it. Okay? If you have any questions, go back, rewind the video, and watch me again. Listen to me again. Practice with me again on a separate sheet of paper. Or just write some questions in the margin, and I will deal with that when I'm available to do that. All right? Thanks for listening.